Welcome to POSTCAST. The Utah Jazz two-game win streak falls to the LA Clippers as they play their first game without Mike Conley, and it was evident. 121-114 is the final. Lots of different things led to this one as the Jazz fell to the Clippers tonight. I have the final score wrong on the bottom of the screen here, but that's all right. We're talking about it on POSTCAST. David Locke along with Ron Boone. Jazz fall 121-114 despite what the screen says. I don't know what box score I got that was wrong that I put it up, but anyway. So this story, bunch of stories kind of on this one. The first one was transition defense was really a problem that dug the hole that the Jazz actually pulled themselves out of, but might have been too much to overcome, if that makes sense. The Jazz trailed by as many as 17. They did have a 5-point lead going into the fourth quarter when then other issues came out. But the first part of the night is that through the first half of the game, the Clippers were in transition 26% of their possessions. League average is like 15%. So just a crazy number, and they were scoring 1.9 points per possession. What happened in this game that the Jazz got so beat in transition so badly early?
What I thought so early, was the speed. Without a doubt, it was the speed. Guys that were running up and down the floor. Even though they wasn't getting a lot of fast break points, they were still scoring early, getting into the offense. You could see that Powell was enjoying a great night. That early screen, being able to turn the corner, get a mid-range jump shot, and there was a number of times where he got all the way to the rim. Fourth quarter, Jackson kind of turned it on. He was going underneath the screen, so he started knocking down some shots. Those two guys really made the difference in the ball game. You know,
we opened the broadcast talking about the lack of off-the-bounce three-point shooting in the Clippers, and actually Reggie Jackson, who was 4 of 18 so far this year on off-the-bounce threes, did hit a bunch of them later in the game, and it probably makes some sense there that the Jazz actually were going under those screens to dare them to make those shots. Those are shots they had not been making this year.
Yeah, 9 for 24 for the Clippers as far as three-point shooting, and as you mentioned, off-the-bounce threes it's not something that, you know, they do a lot of. Are not very good at. Morris in the fourth quarter, didn't see a lot of him. Wall in that fourth quarter, didn't see a lot of him.
Yeah, so after his 8 turnovers and his 3 turnovers to start that ignited the Jazz to open the third quarter, he got a little quiet. Yeah. So, I mean, it was a good fight. The Jazz fell behind, as we said, by 17, and then they worked their way back up to a 5-point lead. So the disappointing part is that the fourth quarter, and there was just some bad stretches in there. And how much of that was no Mike Conley?
Well, a lot of it, you know, because he does settle the team down. He does make some things happen. There was a couple of lazy plays there that got the Jazz in trouble, that if the Jazz would have scored on that possession, I'm talking about the one, Olenek.
Yeah.
In that case, Conley probably would have had the basketball. But Olenek got a little lazy on a play, and Batum aggressively comes up with it and goes down to score. And I think that put him up 7. Whereas the Jazz would have scored, probably would have been a 2 or 3-point ball game.
Those were big. There were a lot of big swing plays in this game, and the big swing plays have gone the Jazz way. It's hard to tell whether it's all Mike Conley, obviously. Clippers without Paul George tonight. But the guard line of Reggie Jackson and Norman Powell were the story. 30 for Norman Powell, 27 for Reggie Jackson. It's interesting. Those are the two guys that have had to sacrifice the most this year. Reggie Jackson is taking 6 fewer shots than he took a year ago. Norman Powell is taking 5 fewer shots than he did a year ago. Those guys relish the opportunity tonight without Paul George.
And just think about that, David. These are guys that if they were not on, if this team wasn't as loaded with the number of talent that they have, not saying that they're any better than the Jazz, but they do have a lot of talent, which means that their minutes are down, their shots per game is down, so they have to adjust their game. Often you talk to Will Harding, talk about the role of star players having to adjust their game and learn how to play without the basketball, those type of things. And so a little different team, even though they're very talented. We'll see what they're like, you know, later on in the season.
Well, obviously we'll see what Kawhi is still a shadow of himself. He was just 4 of 11. Thought Lauri Markkanen was wildly impressive tonight with his fight in his play tonight. He just battled, fierce battle throughout the game.
He's going to battle all the time. I think that's the way he knows how to play. He gets hit a lot, and you know sometimes he can play up above the rim. But you know he has a complete basketball game. He ended up playing quite a few minutes tonight, almost 39 minutes, and that's the season high, that's for sure. Out of necessity, he had to play that. But just look at the starting lineup.
38, 32, 39 for Clarkson.
Right.
3 games in 4 nights. That's a lot of minutes for these guys. Jazz have played more games than anyone in the NBA, more road games than anyone in the NBA, and more games against about 500 teams than anyone in the NBA. And they might have felt that a little bit tonight with that kind of a minute load on this one.
And the thing is, I'm sorry, that the Jazz are in the same position they were last year at this time as far as wins and losses. So,
well, feels very different, certainly, with expectations differently. Last time, every time there was a loss, it was catastrophic.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the overall point guard play. Let's dig into that a little bit, Ron. So no Mike Conley. This is going to be a reoccurring thing for a little while. This team does not really have a backup point guard. That's the way the roster's been built. Colin Sexton's not a point guard. He is a scorer.
Right.
So Jordan Clarkson's had to slide over to really be the starting point guard tonight. And then Talen Horton-Tucker, who has never been thought of as a point guard, is really the backup point guard. Then Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who was really a 2 at Virginia Tech. New Orleans tried to play him as a 1 unsuccessfully. He played 9 minutes tonight. He didn't fare particularly well. He went minus 14 in those 9 minutes. What did you see out of the point guard play tonight?
Not enough. And David, it's hard to get enough out of guys that aren't used to playing that position. Now, the point is, you got 3 guys that end up playing it. Now, can you duplicate one guy's performance? And that's awfully hard to do. The leading assist player for the Jazz tonight was at the center position, and that's Vanderbilt.
And they're trying to play the Vanderbilt with the ball in hands because people have stopped guarding Jared Vanderbilt a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're trying to move him into the middle of the court to be able to make some plays offensively to force teams to guard him a little bit. That is interesting that he's the leading assist guy in the ball game tonight.
And I would imagine they're going to have a look at that as well, because when you're playing him in the middle of the floor, that means that drop center is in the middle of the floor there as well.
Right.
You play him out on the wings, now he can't defend the top of the key. So it's something I'm sure they'll look at to see if that's one of the adjustments they want to make there.
Well, Will has been very creative in all that. And it's all, this is a big ask. Let's not understand. Maybe that's where we really should talk about it. Rather than evaluating and critiquing, which is certainly going to be a part of all these games without Mike Conley. Let's talk about that. The ask level on Jordan Clarkson, on Talen Horton-Tucker, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker to try to run this basketball team and make those decisions. Like what Will really wants is them to just keep playing with the push, but at some point you're still coming up in half-court set, and you got to get things situated and playing, and it's a huge ask on these guys, and it's going to be interesting to see how much it impacts the rest of their games as well.
That's a great point, because when you're playing fast and you're playing in transition, that point guard is important, but you're still playing fast enough to where if you pass the basketball, you can make some things happen. But when you get into half court, then things start to change. And so I totally agree with you there. Depending on how long Conley's out, it's going to be an adjustment and something the Jazz have to look at.
I think the player who's going to be impacted the most about this is Malik Beasley. Mike Conley and Malik Beasley had some magic going where Mike Conley really was finding Malik Beasley an awful lot. It's subtle, but I bet you if we look at his 10 three-point shots tonight compared to the 14 and 13 he's taken the previous nights, there's just a little less room tonight, a little less opportunity. Now, teams are certainly going to glue in on him and guard him tightly, but I do have a feeling he's not going to have quite the same room he had and opportunities he's had the last 2 games.
Yeah, and he's had some great room, and he's responded. I mean, just think the 13, 14 three-point shots he's made here in the last couple of ball games. But it's the comfortable. How comfortable are you? How comfortable are you when you get a chance to shoot a 3? When a guy's running at you, whatever, and that has a lot to do with Conley being able to get the basketball to you timely and in the right pocket.
A lot of people on the chat room we see are asking about the call. Talen Horton-Tucker overturning the call. If we're being honest, when we saw the replay the first time, Ron Boone goes, "Ooh, that's close." And if the hometown official is saying, "Ooh, that's close,"
yeah, it was awfully close. And I thought that if they upheld the play, then it was because Coffey's right foot may have not have been planted. But as I've argued a point so many times, if you're between the man and the basket, who cares if that foot's not planted?
That was Tyler Ford's ruling, was that he had legal guarding position, And then Taylor Horton-Tucker ran him over. All right, 2 stars tonight, Ron Boone. Lauri Markkanen is one of them. There's no question there. 25 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, and a block. He was terrific. Who's the other star for you tonight, Ron Boone?
We don't have anyone other than Tucker that's in the plus. In the plus.
Jordan Clarkson was +7.
Oh, yeah, Jordan Clarkson is. So it's Filipino Heritage Night. What do you think?
So we're going with Jordan Clarkson?
Why not?
Some people are voting Taylor Horton-Tucker tonight. No. Taylor 4 turnovers, 2 assists. I think I'm going Jordan Clarkson with you.
Yeah.
Lauri Markkanen and Jordan Clarkson are your 2 stars of the night tonight. On our opinion, feel free to chat in the chat room about that. Thanks very much for being a part of POSTCAST. Locked On Jazz will be with you tomorrow. Probably a little delayed because maybe we'll do a live show tomorrow because because we get in at 3 o'clock in the morning tonight. Love those Los Angeles flights back to San Francisco. I mean, where are we going? Salt Lake City.
Back to Tuella. How
Have we
about that?
played too much? Have we played too many games? Maybe. See.